Afternoon.
Yes.
I'm actually very happy to be here because it's quite cold in Switzerland right now, you probably can imagine. So for me it's a little bit weird when I come here and go to the bathroom and hear jingle bells, which happens 5 minutes ago. However, it's actually our first official lecture about pulsed electromagnetic field technology here in Singapore. And before I start with the topic, I would like to introduce myself a little bit to you. Pierre already mentioned, my name is Wolfgang. I was born and raised in Germany, in a little village, and I live in Switzerland since 9 years. And I travel the world since 16 years on a mission to inform and educate people about a technology which is actually 5,000 years old. But because of several developments in our society, it disappeared someday, and it was actually rediscovered for home use about 20 years ago, when one of these first units for home use appeared in a small country named Austria. So, talking about the history of pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, like I said, we must go back to the ancient times. The Egyptians, the Greek cultures, they used so-called magnes lithos, which means in English magnetic stones, to heal their patients. And they used these stones, and interestingly, they didn't put it just on somebody, they were moving it all over around the body. Why they moved it? Because they figured out when they just put it, it doesn't create an effect, but when they start moving it, it created an effect. So that's why we nowadays call it pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, because even the Greek cultures and the Greek medicine found out that a magnetic field can create a beneficial impact on human organisms if you move the magnet, so if you change the static field into an impulse. So that was quite impressive, and it was mainly science from Russia and from the Baltic states and also from Germany who rediscovered this technology again and started to do research. The first very good research was done from a German professor, Professor Warnke, from the Technical University in Munich. It's interesting, it's a technical university and not a medical university. He was actually a physicist, and he did some trials and he exposed people to an electromagnetic field who suffer from insomnia. And he had very, very powerful results with this application. So actually the first medical related application for pulsed electromagnetic field was applied for people who couldn't sleep, insomnia patients. And it is still till today, when you use such a technology, the first thing which you would experience is that your sleep becomes much better, because of these calming, relaxating effects of low, gentle, pulsed electromagnetic fields on your entire organism. So, talking about my story, about 20 years ago I was diagnosed with cancer. I was in the age of 26. I was suffering from a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. At that time it hit me pretty hard because I was into professional sports. I was a hockey player, so I was invincible at the age of 26. However, it was diagnosed during a routine examination, so I didn't expect it. It hit me out of nothing. And they did 2 surgeries on me. First, they took out the tumor, which was here in the hip. It had the size of a fist, and I didn't feel it. So it was a pretty crazy situation. And then they did the second surgery on me. They opened me from here to here, and they put out the whole lymph string in order to prevent the tumor growth and the spread out into other organs or organ systems. Afterwards, I received a complete stage of chemotherapy, overall 3.5 months, and I was obviously not the same person than before. I lost a lot of weight, about 45 kilograms. That's about 85 pounds. And the problem is when you by the way, yeah, statistically at that time, 20 years ago, with my diagnosis, I had a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma between stage 3 and 4. Statistically, I was 70% dead. Statistically. You know, I'm a very positive person, so I realized I'm still 30% alive. So I tried to use that 30% and to motivate myself and to stay positive, which is, by the way, very important when you suffer from a severe disease, that you always stay positive, because positive intentions, positive thoughts have also a very, very remarkable impact on the healing capabilities of your own body. So that's very, very important. And you can see that many, many times, especially with cancer, that people who are diagnosed with this disease but stay positive and have a positive relation to their life and always looking forward and being happy and being positive, that helps to recover even from such a disease. For me, it was the problem was when they left me out of the hospital, I felt a little bit lost. And this is actually what happens with a lot of people when they are treated with chronic diseases. Once they leave the medical support, they don't know what to do. And this is totally against my life philosophy, because I always try to be proactive. And in this particular case, I also wanted to, to do something for myself, just to give yourself a good feeling that you are doing everything on a daily basis to help you to fully recover from that disease. And I finally found some good stuff in the complementary and alternative field. I almost investigated everything at that time, what was possible to investigate. It was not so easy than nowadays, because we didn't have Google. So we still had to show efforts to get information, going into libraries, talking to people. Imagine we had to talk to people at that time to get information. Isn't that interesting? It's a totally different social life, right? Today we don't have to talk to anybody anymore. We just sit in front of our laptop and it's not necessary. It's even interesting that we have so many people here today, because people always think somebody can record it and I can watch it later on my computer. So this is a little bit the way how our social life, the direction how our social life goes. In my opinion, it's probably not the correct way. Because human beings and also animals are family-based, and family also means not only the family at home, it also means that you meet from time to time, that you exchange some news, that you smell, that you see your person, your people, your friends whom you talk to. So I'm a little bit against all this development that everything becomes remote controlled. But we will hear a little bit about this later on, which kind of impacts all this social behavior has on our health. And hopefully when you go out after the maybe 1.5 hour or 2 hour when I finished my lecture, you will probably have a little bit of a different idea how you could create your lifestyle a little bit more healthy and happy without using all these nice technologies so extensively, and still be a nice, balanced and healthy human being. So that's about that. So on my journey of discovering all that kind of stuff, I also got introduced to this technology, PEMF. I was invited to a press conference and a person approached me. He knew about my story, and he explained me the benefit and a little bit the scientific background of it. And for me it was so clear what this person told me that I immediately decided I want to have such a machine. At that time it cost a fortune, maybe 5,000–6,000 Sing dollar, converted to your currency. I learned that before, because we had, at that time I bought it, we still had Deutschmark, German mark. Now we have the euro. We're not so happy about it, by the way. And, and so I started because my problem was because of the 2 surgeries, of the high content of toxins which were inside me, caused by the chemotherapy and also the anesthesia from the 2 surgeries. I was not only still suffering from my primary cancer, I was also suffering from insomnia. I couldn't sleep. And this is a not so amusing combination if you are energetically already below the carpet and in the same time you cannot sleep anymore. And so I started using this technology, and the person told me, just use it 8 minutes in the morning and 8 minutes in the evening, and that's all. Do this for 4 to 6 weeks, and then we will see how you feel. And so I started. It was a very cheap looking box. You could only adjust intensity from 1 to 10, and you could turn it on and off. It was a square box, so it was not worth 5,000 Sing dollar from the vision. And I started, and the interesting thing is, when you lie on such a system and you get exposed to a pulse electromagnetic field, you know what you feel? Nothing. You know, it doesn't vibrate, it doesn't hurt, it doesn't, you're not getting hot from it. It's almost, you know, when you get an injection, you feel it, you know, there's something going on, it hurts. But you don't feel it. And I was, of course, a little bit concerned about that. How could something which you don't feel help you? You know? But on the other hand, I was also thinking, how could something what you don't feel hurt you? Because I didn't feel my cancer as well growing in my body. So you don't have to feel always something, you know, in order to create a benefit or a damage. It just happens. But of course we are educated. A medical treatment you have to feel something, otherwise it doesn't make anything to me. And I had absolutely the same impression about that. But because I was so desperated and because I was really motivated to do something, I kept on going. And after 4 weeks of consecutive usage of this PEMF device, which I bought at that time, you know what happened to me? Nothing. I didn't feel any real benefit so that I could say, yes, this is really a very, very nice technology, and you know, so I lost my motivation to use it, and I called this guy I bought it from, and I asked him to give me my money back, because I wanted, actually I was really angry, I wanted to throw it on his face, because it was so expensive, and it didn't give me the benefit what I expected. And he again convinced me, and of course he didn't want to give me back his money. Maybe he used it already for something else, I don't know. But he said a very important sentence to me, which is still very deeply rooted in my mind. He said, you must understand, this technology is not an injection, it's not a painkiller, you know, it is actually a modality which shifts or changes the behavior of your entire organism, and it takes some time until the results will show. The same thing like again with a disease, you know. 2 days ago we had a nice full day training with some of our representatives here, and I told them, when people get a heart attack, you know, you must earn this. You don't get it overnight. You know, every heart attack is well earned. Because you must do the wrong thing on a daily basis over a very, very long time. You know, it's not like it comes overnight. In a very rare cases, when there is probably a genetic defect, or when there is already an existing problem, then it may happen, but in general, it doesn't happen. So, So this is something we must learn in our general behavior, that a disease doesn't come overnight. And if you want to reverse a disease, and reverse, in my opinion, means causal healing, not just suppress the symptoms, which happens in the classical medical field on a daily basis more and more. You know, we have more and more chronic patients, not because they cannot heal, it's because they were forced to stay ill. So that's what we call disease management. From a holistic approach, I see it totally different. If something is functionally wrong, you are always able to reverse it. But if you want to reverse it, you cannot expect that if you're short before your earned heart attack, that you can get rid of everything within 1 day or 2 days or 2 weeks. It is a process. And he explained that exactly the same way I told this to you right now, and this again made sense to me. So I said, okay, I must probably be more patient until I see and I feel the obvious results. And I kept on going, and after 2 more weeks, so after 6 weeks in addition, I will never forget this day, because I woke up in the morning and I had 14 hours of sleep. And it was actually the first morning after months where I felt that my body is able to regenerate again. And believe me, this was the go for me, because I felt, aha, my body is still able to fight against it, to regain the capability of taking over healing, and that was for me the goal. And from this day on, I recovered step by step. You know, it took me about 3 months, and I was almost the same person than before the diagnosis. Of course, not physically, because I still had to regain weight. I lost a lot of weight because of all this chemotherapy and all that. But I was recovering very quickly, and because of this impressive result, which I felt on myself, I was highly encouraged to start asking questions about this technology. Because while using it, I didn't know anything, just what the guy told me. And I started actually my own research, and I was so intrigued by this whole thing that after 2 years of traveling the world, visiting a lot of energy medicine conferences, talking to people all over the planet, to specialists who have a little bit of an idea of energy medicine, healing with frequencies, you know, what is the correlation between energy and human organisms, I decided to take a look on my very cheap looking machine, and I said, I can do this better. And then I started to create the second generation of the machine I bought. I had no clue about manufacturing. I had no clue about engineering. But believe me, when you are on a real mission, from the bottom of your heart, you always find the right people, because you are so consistent in looking for them, that one day, you know, they just come to you. And this is what happened. And I started my experience as a business, driven by my personal experience, because I had this inner motivation to share my story with everybody. And I will never say today that this technology healed my cancer, never. But I know that it was a big building block, because it was actually from the day I felt the benefit, and I did nothing by the side. I was always on a healthy diet. I didn't take any medication on the side. The only thing what I did, I drink a lot of water at that time, up to 3-4 liters a day. So it's 1.5 gallons per day. You know, of course the bathroom was my best friend, but it was also good, because whenever you released your liquids, you know, in my opinion, I saw this picture that some of the toxins go out with it. And that was pretty interesting and pretty good. So, and since 17, 18 years now, I travel the world. I did thousands of lectures for lay people, for medical profession in universities and try to educate and teach people about this technology. And in the meantime, we have Veronica is actually the fastest woman in Europe in hill climb racing. And I put her on a Formula car and she was pretty fast too. You know, thank God she's not yet faster than me, because otherwise I stop. But this is a GP2, it's almost as fast as a Formula 1 car. And there are only 9 women in the world who ever tested or drove such a car. And she will actually drive one next season in the Boss GP race series together with me. So we will be opponents during the race. But I hope before and after we will always be as nice as we are always together. So that's a little bit of an idea what we do, because I also want you to know who is speaking to you today. Okay, let's talk about PEMF. Remember that times? Very boring time, right? No internet, no WhatsApp, no Viber, no Facebook, you know. And why I tell you this? Because something is wrong on our planet. Something is going severely wrong. And on my travels, I always try to travel with open eyes. I found a nice plate here. I'm not sure if you want to go there for a treatment. To the Death Valley Health Center. However, this was actually in Nevada. It's existing, it's not a joke, but it was a little bit interesting. Why I show you this is, when you look at our society, what happens right now is, we have more and more chronic illnesses showing up, which were not known 100, 150 years ago and before that time. And of course, the global classical medical facilities, they have a huge problem because they don't know how to deal with those people anymore. So everything in regards to health management, major ones which don't sound so impressive, for example, pain. Pain, by the way, is not a disease. Pain is a symptom. So there is always an underlying cause behind the pain. But it seems that doesn't interest anybody anymore out of the classical medical field, because we treat pain with painkiller of all kinds of sorts. You know, we have for the smaller pains, we have ibuprofen, we have aspirin, then we have the stronger ones, we have the Voltarens, we have the Valiums, all kinds of stuff. However, if you think about it, what happened, we just suppress the symptom, but we don't investigate the underlying cause. And this is for people like me, who are in the holistic field, who see the organism as a whole, it's not acceptable. Because why not researching and looking for the underlying cause of this pain? And this is something which brings our entire healthcare system in a real emergency situation, because we don't have enough funds anymore to maintain the chronic diseases, and in probably 10 years, healthcare is not affordable anymore. You know, and that's why we must change our thoughts. We must think about how we can protect our health, how we can maintain our health in order to not become a victim of a system which will collapse worldwide. Because imagine you suffer from something and you cannot afford help anymore. I think then our entire world goes really in the wrong direction. It goes anyway. We know that 70% of our population on this planet, they have not access to water. I mean, this is crazy if we think about this, but this is fact. And the problem is that our environment changes so dramatically that in regards to the evolution, how we adapt to our environment, we are lagging behind already. We cannot adapt as quick as the environment changes. And the main invention which caused all these problems was the invention of electricity, about 150 years ago, Nikola Tesla. He did a lot of good things, and of course this was a remarkable invention, and I'm sure at that time he didn't know what our nice apples and blackberries do with it in the future. But what happened with the invention of electricity is that for the first time in history, our planet had to face man-made artificial frequencies. This was not visible, not available before on our planet. So actually our organisms were for the first time exposed to information around us, which the body said, I'm sorry, I don't understand this language, because I never got introduced to such an information. And then you know how the development goes right now with all these high-tech. Statistically, every person on this planet has a smartphone. Of course, practically not. Who has no smartphone? Who has no smartphone? She said, yeah. She feels already guilty that she doesn't have a smartphone. I tell you, you're much healthier. Believe me, automatically. And I will tell you later why. But so, you don't have to be ashamed if you don't have one, but you see how our society is? A smartphone is part of our lifestyle. If you don't have a smartphone, if you don't call everybody every day, if you don't WhatsApp everybody every day, you are not part of the society. So, you know, it's big business. They put pressure on you to use all that stuff. They develop apps every day, hundreds, thousands of new apps on these nice platforms. You can download it for free, you can use it. You know, you probably don't imagine that they suck all your personal data with these apps out of your smartphone, and they send it to the governments, they send it to companies, which then create a profile of you because they want to attack you with advertising, what you like, and so on and so on. This is what happens. If you Google for something, and then you open your Facebook account, and suddenly there's advertising coming up. And this advertising is related to what you searched on Google 2 days ago. This is how intelligent these systems already are. You know? And I just want to make you aware of this. Of course, we cannot stop with all this anymore. But we must, I think we must create a little bit more of a sensitivity and use all this stuff more responsible. Not only in regards to our data and to protect our privacy, but also, and you will learn this today, in regards to our health. Because there is visible information around you. Right now in this room, for example, we have 500 TV channels. They're right here. You know, the problem is we cannot see them, we cannot smell them, we cannot touch them, because we don't have an organ yet to detect them. Maybe if we, in 10 generations, we will have a big organ here, like an antenna or whatever, where we are able to detect all this, that I need to run out here because it's not good for me. But as of now, we don't have this. So, and because these information are not visible for us, we think there's nothing going on. If we would have an antenna and we have a receiver, we can make all these 500 channels visible at the blink of an eye, easily. But all these informations are here, you know. When you, for example, if you sit now and you don't put your smartphone on flight mode, there is an ongoing communication between your smart provider and your smartphone, because your provider needs to be connected to your smartphone, otherwise the provider cannot make money with you. So the smartphone and the provider, they do everything to stay connected because they want to make business with you. And if it's not connected, no possibility to interact, to communicate, to call, to send SMS or whatever, no money, not good. So, you know, if the reception is not good, every smartphone has an amplifier built in, which amplifies its these are things that are going on a crazy value. Really, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. So, if you look at this slide, we have a lot of adaptation problems because our environment develops too fast. The quality of food within the last 20, 30 years, ladies and gentlemen, it's a mess what we eat. No vitamins, no vitamin content anymore, no minerals. You know, we are running one deficiency after the other. Quality of water. Tapped water you cannot drink. In Switzerland you can. Here you cannot anymore. Because it's full of antibiotics, you know, which is over the canalization and everything. It's full of chlorine. You know, if you drink this, you better drink a good glass of wine. It's much clearer and much more healthy than tapped water. So you must think about water to get healthy water. It's very important. And I mentioned that already, this potential increase of electrosmog. We call this, the summary of all artificial frequencies around us, we call it electrosmog. And the problem with electrosmog, I mentioned it already, it is not detectable for us. I must look if Pierre gave me this. Yes. This is a little device, and with this device I can make electrosmog hearable for you, so that you hear what's going on. It's like something like a Geiger counter. Maybe you can hear that. You can hear that? Yeah. Okay. If I, for example, go closer to a device which exposes an artificial electromagnetic field, what happens? Can you hear that? It sounds like you're standing on a cat. Sorry. You hear it? Yes. If you go away, it's off. Somebody has a smartphone? iPhone 6, please. I don't have that yet, that's right. iPhone 5 I have already, sorry. Samsung. Can you hear that? Very nervous. Because it always tries to stay connected to the provider. So whenever the signal becomes low, the smartphone amplifies its ability to stay connected, and that gives this nervous noise. So for example, this is nice, pink. Veronica, I have a gift for you. Yes, you get a new one, yes. So, to give you a practical example how you can sleep better, it's very simple. Who uses the smartphone on the nightstand as an alarm clock? Tell me. Be honest to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. Almost everybody. So if you do this, it's not a problem, but you must do one important thing. And this important thing is you must put your smartphone on flight mode. Because if you don't put your smartphone on flight mode, it emits constantly during the whole night an extremely high potential of electromagnetic fields, and this may have a negative impact on your brainwaves. And this leads to the fact that your brainwaves don't go in the delta or theta state, very long frequencies, to give you the ability to sleep. So this is very important because I know you would never think about this. If you don't sleep, you go to the doctor, cannot sleep, you get these sleeping pills, they kill you over time. Remember, you must earn the disease, takes a while, not right now, but by simply turning off your smartphone, you know, not completely, just go on flight mode, your alarm function is still working, and the smartphone doesn't emit any electromagnetic exposure anymore. By the way, even a regular analog alarm clock, who has such a thing still, an alarm clock, you can keep it in the room, but do it away from your head. At least 2-3 meters. You have another positive effect. When it rings in the morning, you must get up to turn it off, and then you're up already. You cannot fall asleep again. So that also has a positive side effect. Let's see what else we have. We have these tablets, of course. They also make noise. All the time. You hear that? And you hold this in the hand the whole time. And your body gets constantly exposed to this stuff. Of course you don't feel it. You know, everybody's no. Oh, okay, let's check this here. No, just a little bit, but we didn't check. We didn't try out if a smartphone, if somebody calls on a smartphone. Do we have two people with two smartphones? They know each other, so that one person can call the other person.
Sorry, can I try this off flight mode now?
Almost nothing. You see? Almost nothing. Who can call? Who can call whom? Okay, Timothy, you have your smartphone with you? Okay, let's see. He's not available? Okay, now it's pretty okay. It's a little bit of a noise. And? Nobody. Ah! Somebody's calling. You hear it? It gets up right away. And now when you take the call, the emittance of the of the electromagnetic field will stay like this. All time when you have it on your ear. This, what you don't hear, is actually what your brain gets. These are these underlying frequencies which are not hearable for you. So, thank you very much. So, how can you protect yourself from this? It's very nervous too, yes? It doesn't matter, but it emits, even if it's not a smartphone. So how can we ourselves protect from this? Throw it away would be the best, whatever. But of course, like I said, you know, I know that we cannot be without that anymore. Actually, we could, but because of the social aspect that it becomes already part of our lifestyle, it's really tough to get away from it. But of course, we can do a lot of things to be more responsible when we use such gadgets. For example, what I told you in the night, put it on flight mode. You know, you can still use it as an alarm clock. And usually every smartphone comes with the earplugs. You know, when you use these earplugs for calling, you have almost no electrosmog exposure anymore. And you also don't suffer from the so-called thermal effect. Thermal from heat, that means if you use a smartphone on your ear, and usually women, they tend to talk a little bit longer than men. I don't have a study now which proves that, but I just throw it in the room. So when you use when you extensively talk to your best friend and share all the news from yesterday, and this talk takes a little bit longer means 30, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, you will feel something very interesting. What happens? The ear becomes hot, it becomes red, and sometimes even it becomes numb. And this is caused by the so-called thermal effect. It literally heats up your tissue. That's what happens. And the athermal effect, by the way, would be what will the frequencies do with us? We don't know that yet. But I tell you one thing, there's a lot of scientific research out which definitely proves that the extensive use of smartphones on the ear, extensive means more than 45 minutes per day, you know, increases the risk of 10,000% to suffer from a brain tumor. This is proven, you can find these studies online. You know? But because it's such a big business, you know, all these informations are still suppressed. But believe me, the research is out. And we don't know about the negative long-term effects. I may say we don't know how our children develop themselves over the next 10, 20 years by constantly being exposed to all this negative impact. It's gonna be crazy. So, Pierre announced PEMF as the fifth element of health. And it is absolutely the correct sentence because we have 4 natural vital elements. This is water, oxygen, light, and gravity. Without those 4 elements, we cannot survive. With one or the other, a little bit longer, but over time, not possible. Oxygen, probably, if you are very well trained, 2 minutes, and then it's game over. Water, about 2 days. Light takes a little bit longer, because it will affect your biorhythm, and you will definitely deteriorate. And gravity is also important, because gravity has, beside of the fact that it keeps us on the floor, it also has this positive side effect that when we move over concrete or over a surface with gravity, we expand and compress our entire skeleton, which leads to an effect which is called in physics as the so-called piezoelectric effect. And this piezoelectric effect of compressing and expanding bones, there is a very interesting effect going on, because on your bones, on the surface of your bones, they are small crystals. And when these crystals create friction, they create an electrical field. And you must understand from physics, Ampere's law, every electrical field creates a magnetic field around it. So we are even able to create our own electromagnetic fields inside us. And in case of the piezoelectric effect, what happens is that by causing this friction, you know, the osteoblasts, the bone cells, become triggered by this electromagnetic field and start reproducing themselves. So actually, without gravity, we would not have this, and you would slowly deteriorate by suffering from severe osteoporosis. Because you will literally lose your bone density, and you know, at a certain stage, your muscles cannot hold your entire structure anymore, and you would deteriorate by losing your entire skeleton. So gravity is very important. But what most people don't know electromagnetism is one of our, it's actually the essential force of our entire life. And we, as human beings, and also the animals, they use electromagnetism to keep surviving and to maintain our entire body functions within us. And we do this on a daily basis automatically without knowing it. And of course, we are here today to get a little bit of a knowledge and an understanding, yeah, what happens in our body with electromagnetism? What happens? Till now, I told you, since about 30 minutes, that, you know, battery. But I have a good voice. So since 30 minutes, I told you that electromagnetic fields are bad, right? And on the other hand, I introduced you to pulsed electromagnetic fields and told you this is the most fundamental positive application you can use to restore or prevent, restore your health or prevent from disease. So there is something wrong with it. Actually, it's not, because, you know, it always depends on the content of the information of this field. It's like, for example, you can cure a disease with the poison of a snake. You can also die from the poison of a snake. It depends on the dose. And this is exactly the same with using energy for either creating damage or for healing. It really depends on how is this information equipped. And this makes the big difference. We are surrounded by an incredible electromagnetic field, which maybe you heard about this already. It's the so-called Earth magnetic field. The Earth magnetic field is a constant exposure of electromagnetic waves gained within the Earth crust, between the inner and the outer core of the Earth. There is a lot of liquid stone, magma and lava, and this stone contains a lot of metal. And when the metal moves, it creates friction, you create an electric field. And every electric field builds a magnetic field around it. Ampere's law. And this is how the electromagnetic field of the Earth is constantly emitting for two reasons. Reason number one is it protects us from the sunstorms. The sun constantly emits particles from its surface, and this stuff runs with very high speed through the galaxy. And in order to not land on our surface and destroy the planet, the Earth magnetic field shields our atmosphere and protects us from these sunstorms. Sometimes it happens that little particles go through that shield, and this is what we know as the so-called northern lights. These natural phenomenon where people pay a lot of money to see that, especially on the poles, North Pole, South Pole. It happens a lot because there the shield is not 100% dense, you know, and it's nothing else than little particles of these sunstones. They slip through the electromagnetic field and they give these wonderful lights, which we know as the northern lights. So this is a phenomenon which we can easily, physically explain what's going on. By the way, which planet looks more healthy? The Earth or the Moon? Believe it or not, the Moon does not have its own magnetic field. Why I love this picture has one reason. Because this is exactly the same picture we can use for our smallest building block for our cell, the human cell. If a human cell doesn't contain of electromagnetic energy, it looks like the Moon. If it is equipped with a high charge of electromagnetism, which a high charge of ionization, then it looks like the Earth. Healthy, colorful, ready to move. So this is maybe a picture you should keep when we later go on
to talk about what happens in the human cell when you get exposed to a healthy pulsed electromagnetic field. So, now I would like to introduce you frequency. Because I told you, on one hand we have the bad electromagnetic fields, on the other hand we have these beneficial electromagnetic fields. So how do we look at this from a perspective of physics? And you must know that the Earth magnetic field, of course, it's a pulsating energy field, and every field has a frequency. Frequency, the word, means nothing else than the existence of an information. Frequency, the existence of an information. No matter how this information is receptible. It can be, for example, when I talk to you, then I create a frequency over my vocal cords. I turn it with my mouth and my tongue into language. I send it out to you. You sit here, you hopefully understand what I'm talking about. You receive it, and if you like it, you resonate with it. Wenn ich jetzt Deutsch spreche, wird es schwierig. So what I did now, I changed the frequency. I didn't change the volume, I just changed the frequency. And suddenly everybody's, you know. So there are frequencies which we as human beings are able to resonate with. And there are frequencies which we don't understand and which we say, it's nice what he's talking, but sorry, I must check out because I don't understand the word. And in energy medicine, it's exactly the same. We have so-called biological windows of frequencies where the body is able to respond to it, to resonate with it, and to take action. And there are information, frequencies, which the body says, sorry, I don't understand this. I cannot deal with it. So this differentiates the good ones, or the understandable ones, from the bad ones. So it's all about the content of the information, which is defined by frequencies. The Earth magnetic field has its own frequency. Thank you.
You see how lost we are without electricity? Crazy. The Earth magnetic field has a frequency, which is, by the way, the Earth magnetic field is well observed. 18 laboratories worldwide observe the Earth magnetic field on a daily basis, 24/7. If you are interested to get information about the intensity of the Earth magnetic field, just Google it and you will get a direct link to the laboratories and you can see everything. The Earth magnetic field emits a frequency which is, in the meantime, evaluated with 11.75 to 11.79 Hertz. Hertz is the unit, the value for frequency, and it means 1 Hertz is 1 vibration per second. This is the unit, so this is something you probably should remember. 1 Hertz means 1 cycle or 1 information per second. This is a natural existing frequency. Because it's not man-made, it's not artificial, it's actually made by the Earth itself. And there is a second natural frequency, maybe you've already heard about the so-called Schumann resonances. Ever heard about this? Very famous. Again, a German guy, Schumann, he figured out that between the surface of the Earth and the exit to the outer space, to the stratosphere, this is actually the space we live in, between the surface and the exit to the stratosphere, which is a totally different environment. This is where the astronauts go. There is no gravity anymore, there is no oxygen anymore, there is no electromagnetic field anymore, or a very low one. So they must be prepared in order to live, to survive in this environment. We could not do this because we don't have the properties for that. But within this surface, that's me and you, there is, interestingly, there is a very constant frequency vibrating around the planet all the time, very, very stable. And this is the so-called Schumann frequency or Schumann resonance. Again, just Google it. Find a lot of information about this. The Schumann resonance is exactly 7.83 Hertz. Not 7.84 or 7.85, it's exactly 7.83. And interestingly, Schumann found out that this stable frequency, which we are surrounded by all the time, we just don't feel it, this is caused by the weather, by the so-called spherics and the lightning strikes. So there is also a correlation between weather and information around us. I'm not sure if you have this phenomenon here in Singapore, that when the weather is changing, sometimes people suffer from a headache, or they cannot sleep very well. You know, the reason for that is this is the fluctuation in the Schumann resonance. You know, if you have a fluctuation in the resonancing, if this very stable frequency fluctuates, it might have a negative impact on our feelings, on our health. And then we sometimes feel very tired, or we get a headache. Migraine patients get a migraine attack, comes worse. And in Switzerland, for example, we have this weather phenomenon sometimes, that even in the winter we have days where it's 20-22 degrees warm in certain areas. In Switzerland we call it Föhn. It comes, the word comes from blow dryer, because it's literally, it's a wind which is so warm, even it can happen in December, that it feels like you have a blow dryer, you hold a blow dryer towards your face. And whenever this phenomenon takes place, a lot of people have health issues. You know, they get headaches, they feel not very well. It's mostly 2-3 days and then it's gone. And this is all related to a fluctuation in our natural frequency range, which is then out of sync, and which takes us out of sync. So it's pretty interesting. So these two existing frequencies are the natural frequencies we are surrounded by. And by the way, we are not only surrounded, we evolved with these frequencies over millions of years. So we got adapted to them. And then let's look on the so-called man-made or artificial frequencies, how they look like. For example, the smartphone. The carrier frequency of a smartphone, believe it or not, it's between 800 and 1900 megahertz. 1 megahertz is 1 million hertz. 1 million hertz is 1 million cycles per second. 1900 megahertz is 1,900 million vibrations a second. This carrier frequency is constantly emitting from a smartphone to stay connected with its provider. Does somebody have a cordless home phone? A cordless phone at home? Yes, they are even worse. 2.3 gigahertz. 1 gigahertz is 1,000 megahertz. So when you use cordless home phones, and they have another negative property, it's the so-called DECT standard, DECT. The DECT standard protects your cordless home phone from this disturbances in the background. It's kind of a shh. With the DECT standard, it's not here, so there is an amplifier built in with literally takes away this negative vibrations in the background, so you have a clearer voice and can understand better. But these DECT standard devices are really, really strong emitters of negative electromagnetic fields. Really strong. By the way, Microwave too. Microwaves are... Is somebody using a microwave? We don't use that in Europe. Almost nobody uses it because we know it's not good. You know, because microwaves not only destroy your food, because when you heat up a food with microwave, there is almost no vitamins inside anymore. So it doesn't only, but it also literally pollutes your food with electromagnetism. No? So start cooking again. Yes, or eat raw. Also possible. Yeah, or steam. Yes, but with steaming also gentle, not to kill the food. By the way, the regular electricity has 50 Hertz, so if you look at these numbers, they are all far higher comparing to the natural fields. And this is actually the idea of how we can utilize electromagnetic fields for health or for damage. If we apply a certain frequency range to your body, which is within, because this is the information which I understand, and it starts resonating with it right away. And then it happens that your so-called biological cloud around you, that your entire frequency spectrum inside you and around you becomes alive with natural frequencies. And the side effect of it is that the artificial frequencies, they cannot bother you so much anymore. Because the problem with electromagnetic fields is you cannot shield them. I know there are a lot of companies, they tell you you have these little chips or whatever, you put it on your smartphone and then you don't have electromagnetic field exposure anymore. This is, sorry, but this is all marketing. And this is untrue. Because you cannot shield an electromagnetic field, it goes through entire material, even through concrete. You know, it's not possible. The only thing what these gadgets might do, theoretically, is that they alter the frequency spectrum. But the field itself is still measurable. So you still get the exposure, and that's why it's not good. The only way to counteract all this electrosmog is to equip your entire organism with natural frequencies, with a low intensity field, in order to build up the resonance factor and to increase your biological cloud so that you are not so affected by these artificial frequencies. And this is, by the way, exactly what you do with this technology. So, in regards to health, this technology is not designed to cure a disease, a particular disease. It is much more fundamental because it changes the entire environment inside your organism and activates the healing capacity of your entire organism. And this is very, very powerful, especially for people when they already suffer from certain deficiencies. For example, fibromyalgia, this is the best example. Fibromyalgia is a disease, or the name of a disease, which is not known in the classical medical field. They don't know how to treat this, because they don't know where it comes from. I tell you where it comes from. Fibromyalgia is a magnetic deficiency. So, in fact, a lot of people are affected by fibromyalgia when they are a lot exposed to electromagnetic artificial fields. So, when you build up their natural fields again, they will immediately get better. And this is something, for example, this system does right away with fibromyalgia patients. Within 1-2 weeks, these people, they experience a tremendous shift in their health just by rebalancing these natural fields and so build up the capability of the body to rebalance itself. But it happens, you know. I see this wherever I go, always. Also allergies, for example. If somebody suffers from an allergy, allergy is nothing else than an autoimmune reaction. By the way, allergies were not known 100, 150 years ago, because there was nothing to be allergic against. Allergy is one of the civilization illnesses #1 nowadays. And more children suffer from that, because their evolutionary code is not programmed to, when they come out, to say, this is an environment I can deal with. No, it's exactly the opposite. No? This artificial environment leads to the fact that even babies and small children develop allergies because their immune system is not ready to conquer all this strange information which they are exposed to. By using pulsed electromagnetic fields, you can perfectly counteract this phenomenon and help yourself without any medication, without any side effect, just by rebalancing your entire organism. So, looking into our cell, what actually happens physically and chemically when you apply a pulsed electromagnetic field. It's actually very simple. And by the way, this is the newest technology we brought now to Asia, and we will start launching this soon. This is the so-called Omnium 1. It looks like a tablet. By the way, it is a tablet because it's Android-based. So you can use it as similar as a regular Android tablet, but it is much more than this, because it serves as an interface to control certain applications which you can add onto this control unit. For example, a complete full-size pulsed electromagnetic field device with applicators. I show you later on a picture. But okay, what happens? You have an electromagnetic field and you expose yourself with it, so it actually goes through your entire body. By the way, this is also a big advantage of PEMF comparing, for example, to laser or ultrasound or microcurrent applications, because the penetration depth of PEMF is infinitely. So it penetrates through your whole body. Whereas laser or infrared or microcurrent has only a very, very, very short penetration depth. And you mainly not even reach the region where the cause is underlying. So this literally goes through your entire system. And of course, because when it goes through your entire body, it affects each of your plus minus 70 trillion single cells. This is the amount of which an average person contains of. 70 trillion single cells. And from the perspective of a holistic approach and from the energy medicine part, we understand health and disease as following. Health and disease always starts or clears up at the smallest building block of our organism, which is the cell. Because a lot of cells together, they create tissue. A lot of tissue together in an intelligent way create organ. And a lot of organ together in an intelligent way create an organ system. And this is what you see here standing and what I see here sitting. So actually every single action, whether it's a positive or a negative, starts and ends here in the human cell. If the cell is healthy, the entire organism is healthy. And this is where PEMF puts its action in place. And to understand this, I try to explain this picture quickly. This is a human cell here. We have the membrane, the cell surface. It's called the cell membrane. Here we have the so-called nucleus. Do you know what's inside the nucleus? DNA. It's actually the software, what the cell has to perform during its lifetime. The DNA differentiates, for example, a hair cell from a skin cell. Actually, basically every cell is totally identical. But the software code inside tells the cell what to do. So, if the hair program is built in the nucleus, it's going to be a hair cell. If the skin program, the skin DNA is built in, then it's going to be a skin cell. And so on and so on. So this is how our organism is actually developed and layouted. And between the membrane and the nucleus we have a lot of stuff inside. One of the important components inside are the so-called mitochondria. Maybe you heard about this. Yeah. The mitochondria are the power plants in our cells. What they do is they transform the oxygen, the nutrients, the minerals, so all what we breathe, what we eat, what we drink, you know, what will be flushed to the membrane will be absorbed in an optimal thinking, completely absorbed, which never happens, but ideally it would be, and inside are the mitochondria. They take all that stuff and they transform it into energy. This energy has a name, it's called ATP. It has nothing to do with the tennis organization. It means adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate is the stuff which we know as energy. The more ATP we can produce, the better we can support our immune system, the better we can support our organ functions, the better we can support our entire ability to stay healthy. Athletes need a little bit more. That's why athletes usually have a higher running metabolism, because they must produce more ATP. Because we run 100 meters in 17 seconds, and the fastest do that in 9-point-something seconds. In order to do that, you need more energy. So you need to create a higher metabolism, high running metabolism, in order to metabolize quicker, to create more ATP. Of course, those people, they have to eat much more vitamins because they need more fuel to transform that. But this is how it works. And this is very well researched in the classical medical field. And now we come to the point where the energy comes in place. Because this is what the classical medicine knows nothing about it. Around every cell, we have these so-called ions. I-O-N. Ions have the ability, when you attract them, to start moving and create what? A so-called potential. Physically known as electricity. When ions move, they create an electric potential. We know this phenomenon from our smartphones because we have a built-in lithium-ion battery. Do you know how you charge this battery? Of course you plug it in somewhere, but do you know what happens? Actually, very simple. When you plug in your charger, what happens is that between the charger and the battery there is a little coil, and this creates a magnetic field. This magnetic field again creates induction, and this induction is enough to kick these butts of the ions, and they start moving. And when these ions start moving, they create electricity, and that charges your battery in your smartphone. And it is exactly what happens in our body too. If we apply a pulsed electromagnetic field from outside and penetrate our cells with it, these ions, if the field is understandable for them, they start moving and they start create a potential, which we know as membrane potential. If this membrane potential increases, so that means your single cell literally inflates, it creates a better ability to absorb oxygen, nutrients, minerals. It works. If you see the picture of a pump, this is somehow how this system works. So if the membrane potential is good, your cell pump is working properly. That means it pumps also all the oxygen, nutrients, minerals inside. It will be perfectly turned into ATP within the mitochondria, and the rest of the stuff which we don't need which is waste. When you transform material into energy, you always create waste, and this waste has to go out. And in our example of human metabolism, it's water, it's carbon dioxide, and it's of course toxins, which are chemically produced by this whole process. They must go out. The better this process works, pump in, pump out, pump in, pump out. And of course, the better the stuff is which is coming in. That's why healthy food is so important. Because healthy food, healthy water is literally the fuel which will be absorbed by the cell, which will be turned into energy, into ATP. So, if we apply electromagnetic field from outside, we boost this process, we increase the membrane potential of the cell, that leads to a better absorption, that leads to a better production of ATP. Suddenly, your entire environment changes. And your ability, with the additional energy you create, to start healing processes, or to prevent yourself from a disease, increases dramatically. And this is exactly what happens when you get exposed to such a field. And again, for example, when you lie on this system, of course, again, you don't see this field. But maybe you can hear this. I turned this system on. This is the whole body map. Can you hear that? Yes. This is a pulsed electromagnetic field. And you can hear the pulses. Now it's a break, and then it starts again. Now it comes a break. And then it starts again. So this is actually what happens. You receive through one of these applicators of this new Omnium-1 systems, which contains of a control unit and of several add-ons. It's a whole body mat. There is a so-called pillow applicator for local applications. Then we have a spot applicator, which you can put around the shoulders, around the knee, wherever you have a localized problem. And there is also a very interesting tool which I would like to introduce separately. It's the so-called brainwave entrainment system. It's actually the first system which creates the possibility of performing a PEMF application and a brainwave entrainment session in the same time. So, wellness and health for the body and energy, and also for the brain. But like I said, I will spend 5 minutes to introduce this separately. But what happens literally is the following. With the help of a precisely defined pulsating magnetic field, which is within that biological window, that's very important, so that the body is able to resonate with it, we can boost and balance the membrane potential of each cell. The metabolism will be improved and the energy production, ATP, increases. And this is exactly what this application does, not less and not more. And this is as simple as it is. And maybe now you understand what I said at the beginning. This technology is not designed for any particular disease. It actually helps you to change the entire environment within your body, to increase your ATP and immediately start increasing the self-healing capacities. This is what it's based on. Here I have a very good example of evidence which you can show right away. This is a so-called dark field microscopy, little video. This is a very special way of a microscope, how you can look on blood. And what we see here is red blood cells. You know, the red blood cells are responsible for the transport of oxygen. And usually when you are tired, and when you are exhausted, and when your body is already equipped with a chronic disease, those red blood cells, they lose membrane potential. They become tired. And whenever they become tired, they start sticking together. So they also lose surface to absorb and transport oxygen. And that creates a problem, because if you don't transport enough oxygen to the other cells, you will decrease your entire metabolism. So you are in a so-called vicious circle. And if you look on this side here, this is actually dark field microscopy before an exposure to our Omnium-1 IMRS-1 PEMF application. And here you can see that these red blood cells, they stick together. By the way, in between, this is food particles. And you see they are literally clumping together. And after only 8 minutes of lying on the whole body mat with this system, the same person looks like this. You see, the red blood cells are inflated. They are not clocking together anymore. Their ability to transport oxygen is dramatically increased. By the way, this is a white blood cell here. This happens to everybody of you within one application of 8 minutes. Of course you don't feel it, but it happens. This is how dramatically the change is going on. A song to the brain, and we would like the brain to repeat this song in the same way we do. If we do this, our brain is capable of tuning into these frequencies and change its frequency status. And I don't know if you are aware of the fact that depending on which brain waves, frequencies, you can see at the, by the way, you do this with the EEG, electroencephalography. Ever had somebody EEG, where you get all these electrodes and they measure your brainwave frequencies? It's a common investigation what neurologists do whenever there is a neurological disease. They will always check your brainwaves because they can read out something what's going on. But what you can also read out of the brainwave status is your mental status, where you are alert, whether you are alerted, whether you are concentrated, whether you are tired, whether you are already meditate. This is always related to a certain prevailing frequency within your brainwave frequencies. And the most available frequencies, brainwave frequencies, I put it up on this chart here. We have so-called the longer brainwaves. These are the delta and the theta, between 0.5 and 7 hertz. These are the longer, the slower frequencies. And those frequencies are mostly prevailing when you are in a state of totally relaxation and before sleep. So right now we have a lot of in this room. That's why you see, that's why I become louder and louder. But we are almost done, so don't worry. But I flew 12,000 kilometers, so you must give me 1.5 hours, okay, please? And then we have the faster frequencies. These are the alpha and beta. These are related to the mental state of concentration, being alert, being wake up. Right now it's much better. I can see already more alpha and beta. And we also have a very low amount of gamma waves, but they are not so super important in regards to our mental state. But what can we do with this information? By the way, you again see, if you look at the frequency range, this is all between 0 and 30 hertz. Remember before, 11.75, 11.79 hertz, 7.83 hertz. You know, 7.83 hertz is related to the so-called alpha state. Awake. So, when we have these weather phenomena, and we have the fluctuation of the Schumann resonances, the body loses it, the brain loses its connection to the natural frequencies. And then it starts getting tired. It's very interesting. There's a correlation between these frequencies. And all frequencies within our entire body and outside in nature are very low frequencies. They're all related together. So, in general, the brain produces all wavelengths, all these wavelengths here, in the same time. However, normally a specific frequency always prevails, and this prevailing frequency determines finally the mental state of the person. So, with brainwave stimulation, we are able to correct frequency patterns and influence the mental state. So if you are totally tired, and if delta and theta is prevailing in your brainwave frequency range, and we would now start applying to you an external stimulus with alpha, and we do it in a very efficient way, and we do this here, very simple. Because we do this with a so-called RGB LEDs. You see these flickering lights here? By the way, eyes closed please, when you use it, otherwise you don't see anything for 2 hours. And we also have built-in earphones. And these earphones, they create weird tones. Some people call and say, my earphones are not properly working because they make so weird tones. That's why I tell you right away, whenever you use this and it makes weird tones, it's on purpose. These weird tones are, depending on what we apply, either delta, theta, alpha or beta frequencies, in order to train your brain, you know, minute by minute, to tune into this frequency and so alter your mental state. And this works pretty cool, I tell you. You know, so if you, for example, if you had a hard working day, and you come home and you have an important event at the evening, and you feel really tired, 8 to 16 minutes brainwave with alpha or beta will get you back on track, without doing anything else. And it works pretty efficient, believe me. Just by applying light and sound frequencies. So this is the idea of brainwave entrainment. An audiovisual application to balance brain frequencies. By the way, if we talk about medical terms, this has dramatic positive results. People suffering from depression. Children suffering from ADD and ADHD. By the way, children love this application. You might think that the children cannot take it, but they love it. Because there's something going on, this is cool, these lights, you know, and there is some, you can overlay some music over these tones, it's possible with this system, so even the music of your choice. If you say the tones alone, it's a little bit too weird. And you can also see, when you look a little bit longer, that the left side and the right side are not synchronized. So that the frequency are changing on the left side, different from the right side. This is a so-called stereo system, brainwave entrainment system, and it creates an effect which is called as hemispherical synchronization. So what the system does, it synchronizes the left side of the brain and the right side. And we know from research that people who are hemispherically very well balanced, they are more happy. They are more positive, they have better intentions, and this is what the system gives you as an added value. Hemispherical synchronization. So this is a very, very interesting technology which we are now able to implement in this new Omnium One system and provide it to you together with a PEMF application. And by the way, for people who have no time, you can do this simultaneously. So you lie on the PEMF, put on the goggles, you got both in the same time. So life is all about balance. And I hope you learned a little bit and you understand now a little bit how energy medicine, and in particular how pulse electromagnetic fields and audiovisual stimulation works, which kind of impact it creates on the body and on your mind, and what it's not for. It is not designed to treat or cure a particular disease. It's, like I said, it's much more fundamental because it really dramatically changes the entire environment inside you. If you would like to try it, we highly invite you. If you would like to have more information, you can talk to our representatives who are already certified here in Singapore to be able to give you the best information about this technology. And yes, what else? I think I didn't forget anything. Maybe one thing to the end, and I can tell this from the bottom of my heart, that healthy people have a lot of wishes, ill people have only one. Never forget this. So thanks for listening. I wish you a wonderful weekend, and I hope we will see each other soon again, because you know you always meet twice in life. And I hope I will have the pleasure again and say thank you very much. You're a very nice audience.